So I kind of wanted to push myself a little bit and actually do a non-default vanilla fight first. Um, what do I mean by that? So it's very easy to do analysis for the first fight of a game because we can just completely ignore ultimates. But if we actually look at a point B or a point C, maybe on a second or third round, that's where things get a little bit trickier. That's where ultimate advantage, disadvantage tracking, all that stuff plays a much larger role. And as Defiant rolls into Anubis point B, we first have to look at the game state. We have to look at exactly where advantages lie, where disadvantages happen, right? So intrinsically, New York has the defender's advantage because they have respawn advantage so close to the point that trades are very much in their favor. So if you take a 1-for-1 trade, that is very much a New York favored thing to have happen, right? New York wants to trade. Defiant, on the other hand, doesn't want to. There's such a long run back that trades are not what they're looking for. They're looking for a very clean team fight win. And if we look at the ultimates, we can see they have clean team fight win advantages here. They have a considerable alt differential on Shatter. They have Grav. New York does not. Defiant have Bomb. New York does not. The one thing that is tricky is Transcendence. Now, why is this tricky? So the way that most teams in the league are looking for very clean teamfight victories when applicable, and when they are applicable is when sound barrier is not up. When sound barrier is not up, you can look for Grav Bomb. The idea is that you grav together a team, you throw your bomb into it, you can either boop them out, you can charge the Rhine, and it, reveals the soft underbelly of the team that's in the grav. They have no protection, they all die to the bomb. Very clean and easy team fight. It gets a little nuanced when the Zarya is holding her shields. If you hold shields and they're looking for a grav bomb, okay, I can pop my personal, I can pop an allied shield to protect somebody as the bomb explodes. We live. The interesting thing with this rollout is how and when these ultimates are used. So again, Defiant here looking for a grav bomb. They know that they can hit it because they infer through their ult tracking through the last couple fights that Ano doesn't have sound barrier. Again, I've experienced enough Overwatch, and I've not worked with, I think that's a little bit disingenuous, but I've seen enough scrims to know that they can ult track within single digits. This is the play that I'm kind of hinging my argument on. This boop here from Roki. So again, take a look at the Lucio for Defiant. And again, keep in mind the way that ultimates or the grav bomb tends to work. The normal pace of things is that Toronto will grav, New York will respond with Transcendence. Defiant, if they're looking for a grav bomb, which in my inference I think they are, they will bomb into it. Then it's up to New York to respond. Do they have Zarya shields to work with? Do they have sound barrier? That's how you respond to the D.Va bomb into the grav. But it always starts with grav, then trance, then bomb, then things get a little sideways. Are we protecting people with Zarya? Are we investing sound barrier? Most of the time, you'll see teams invest sound barrier, and then it's a wash. They go back to neutral. Big boop here from Roki. This is going to put a ton of pressure onto New York. Why is that? Well, look at how far away Mono is from his team. Mono actually should die here. I think he probably gets saved from a clutch bubble and probably armor pack. And a late bash from Stellar. If Stellar actually bashes him off the boop, I think he instantly dies and Defiant takes this fight no problem whatsoever. But he doesn't die. That said, this still puts Toronto in a very distinct advantage. The advantage being a massive life lead on a very key target. Not having armor, big deal for Ryan. Not having shield, having any kind of priority on shield health, big advantage for Defiant. If this puts them in kind of a two-way street. At this point, they can either do two things. They can either push in, or they can hold and play slow. If you hold and play slow, you're threatening point pressure. You can start to see that clock tick up. I don't hate that. If you push in, try to pressure an advantage. This will force Jonek to pop his ult. And again, if we sneak in a little bit more film time, he actually, they pop it pretty close together, but he's looking to pop it early because they can't afford to lose this fight. If they lose this fight, they lose this point, and they have a massive time bank. So you're trying to invest as much as you can into defending this point. So instead of grabbing and pulling the trigger on grabs so soon, push in, pressure them. They have to trans. And if they trans early, that interrupts the flow that we talked about earlier. Now we can grab after they've transed. Now they have no defensive ultimates. They're completely wiped. Even if they manage their Zarya bubbles correctly, they will die to Rhine swings, to Brig damage, to Zen damage very, very quickly. Doesn't matter. But because Defiant's a little bit too hasty with this, they mess up this combo. They mess up a combo that wasn't really going to hit pay dirt if we actually look at who is caught within the grav here. I believe it's just Jonak, Meko, and Mono, and I believe Mono dies through trans anyways. Meko gets demeched, and Jonek, because the grav and the trans were popped roughly at the same time, they're going to end at the same time. Well, actually, it's a weird scenario where the bomb lands as trans ends, and he's still invulnerable and doesn't die to the bomb. But everybody else either dies before the bomb hits or is demeched because of the bomb. Meko gets demeched. That's unfortunate, which again gives Toronto a decent advantage, but they've used a lot of tools to get there. Do they still have an advantage? 100%. Beat comes in, pretty valuable. Decent coil up from Defiant. Ivy's caught out of position here. Something that I've been fairly critical, on Defiant for in the last couple of videos. Ivy kind of works on his own. He's not necessarily playing with the Rhine all that much and will get caught out. If Ivy rotates this way, off of the graph, right? Let's go back. I get he wants to play off angles. I get he's trying to, abuse the fact that he has, charge advantage. Meaning that actually, I don't know if he has charge advantage because the fight's been long enough that Meko Nene probably has equal charge. They probably are around 70 to 80, somewhere in that range. Maybe somebody's a little bit ahead, but I don't think it's far enough to be able to warrant just playing an off angle for aggression's sake. He goes wide here to be able to play this way, but that puts you in danger. I think, again, Ivy has to rotate back with this team. You have a numbers advantage. There's no reason to start to get aggressive. By aggressive, I mean showing holes, being, trying to do too much, trying to win too hard. Because again, you can and will get collapsed on. And because he goes wide here and doesn't rotate with his team, I think if he rotates with his team, New York can't push into him. They don't have a D.Va. They don't have a Rhine. I think Defiant coils, they heal up, then they push, then they call a target, then they go after the barrier's down. But because they're retreating split here, they're split so many different ways, New York can kind of take a pick at the litter and actually collapse in. I do have to say that's probably Ivy's call here. And this trance is pretty egregious. I think at this point, you've already traded. Maybe you can go for another trade. I don't hate using Earth Shatter, for instance, but trance is a big ultimate to be able to invest into this. You don't have a ton of damage. They have respawns. Their respawns are coming. I don't think this is a trance play. You want to use a low a lower impact ultimate that is going to charge a little bit quicker. I think Earth Shatter would have been fine. If you want to continue to invest in that, if the players think that this is winnable, this is, we can swing this in our favor, Earth Shatter is a fine play there. Transcendence, not so much. Because next, let's say you do win this fight. Fantastic, you go next. But let's say if you lose, Neko's going to enter the next fight at about, I'm going to guess, 40%. Nene's going to have ult. Meko probably, we'll have to see, probably has bomb here. It's a rough place to be in. And they invest Earth Shatter. Oh. And they're trading, and they invest beat. So I there's at no point does Toronto think that they can ever lose. And again, they're trading back and forth. They have a fair numbers advantage, but it's not going to last long. They get the D-Mech onto Meko. That's fine. They're starting to regroup. It's sloppy, but it's working. But now they don't have anything. Neko comes back. Smart move on the Moira. The Moira is going to actually reverse or start to alleviate that ultimate tempo disadvantage because of how quickly she builds her ultimate, let alone they don't need to be entirely too aggressive because they have point control. Because you have point control, you want to exist on the point as long as possible. So having the Moira here isn't all that bad. It definitely lowers your kill potential on the front line because you don't have Zenyatta Discord Orb. But again, it's a little bit more immediate healing on point, a lot of more burst healing, I would say. A lot of more really isn't a word now, is it? But this is where stuff starts to fall apart. If you would have had trans there, that would have worked. Now you're just completing the hole. Neko has to swap. Like that 40% could have been on the Zenyatta, like I mentioned before. That Grav, let's say Nene does use his Grav. Okay, fine. Now we can approach with a lead. Not a lead, but, not super afraid of that Transcendence. Or that Graviton Surge from Nene. That extended, overly invested fight absolutely guts their time bank and ruins Defiant's chances of trying to cap this point. So let's look at what they're rolling into with this fight. They have no ultimates or even close to coming online. Ivy's probably very low charge, so he probably won't get ult this fight. Yakpung maybe if there's like a sneaky, pin play or he snipes somebody with Fire Strike, maybe he'll have Earth Shatter. But there again, you're fighting into an Earth Shatter. You're fighting into a Transcendence. You're fighting into a beat, into a bomb. This is a dry fight with 2 minutes on the clock. If they do it quickly and they just throw themselves on point, maybe try to look for Earth Shatter, try to pressure the Rhine, make him want to defensively shatter, I think that's a victory. You come back and you try to, see what the game state's at like next, but they're not. They're playing slow. Just throw yourselves in. You're not going to win this fight. Defiant will not win this fight, barring any kind of massive, heart attack play from New York. And again, no ultimates are built. You can't, there's no way for you to build ultimates. Now, what did Defiant get from this? Well, they got Earth Shatter. Not bad, but that's it. That's all they got. New York, again, took that eco fight very, very gracefully. They used Earth Shatter, converted it into a team fight win. Didn't actually kind of get caught up in the moment and started to pop too many defensive ultimates. Now New York has such an advantage. With a minute left, with Defiant barely starting to have Sound Barrier come online. Transcendence probably will be, if they take the fight slow, could come online towards the end of the fight. Bomb, same thing with Transcendence, probably towards the end of the fight. Grav, again, probably will have it this fight as they approach. By the time they work through Dark here and they come out, they'll have Rally, they'll have Shatter, they'll have Grav, right? So we can assume those are probably already, we can just say those are already online, right? New York, on the other hand, has Barrier, has Transcendence, has Grav, has Rally, has bomb. How does this fight play out? Let's kind of theory craft how I think this fight's going to work. If New York, and I don't even think it's an if, because New York is intelligent and they alt track very well, I think it's a staple of their gameplay that they are very keen on tracking their opponent's ultimates and trying to keep the game versus some teams on a very even level. Well, they'll match you and play very reactive and just try to take very even fights. If they want to be proactive here, I think they could take a fight in the courtyard here easily. New York knows that Defiant doesn't have anything to answer a grav and a bomb. They have no answer for it. Could they counter grav? Sure, they could. I think New York plays aggressive. I think this is just one path, right? New York plays aggressive. Defiant has to bubble Yakpong. They can't afford to take a fight here. They can't afford to, be down. They force out bubbles. If Ivy isn't careful with his bubbles, New York pulls the trigger. They pop grav. They throw in bomb. Team fight loss. You can maybe blitz the point with 20 seconds left if you're Defiant. And if you're, what they've shown me so far, they probably counter grav. They counter grav. Maybe they counter shatter. Does that stop them? Maybe, it hits a clump of 5 and they can't act on the bomb play and they can't, bash the shield or they can't charge the Rhine out. Fair enough, right? But there again, that puts them at kind of an even state. New York can then retreat back to point. You've already wasted maybe another 10-15 seconds. And they've used their Graviton Surge to match yours. You don't have bomb, but that's fine. You have support ult advantage. And you have respawn advantage. There's very few ways Defiant comes back and wins this. New York has all the room in the world. They can be proactive. They can take a fight in the courtyard. They can be a little bit more reactive and take a fight on point and just let them burn time walking through, taking poke here, having to coil back here, heal up, then push in. You've already, burned 45 seconds there. Probably the safer play. But either way, New York takes this 80% of the time. Minute on the clock. Slow, completely dislodged engagement. Yakpung's calling for an engage. Envy's calling for an engage. Look at this posture and look at this body language from Defiant here. You know exactly who their callers are. Yakpung, very vocal. Ivy, probably pretty silent if I had to guess. He's probably very quiet, will listen to calls, sometimes spaces out, does his own thing, gets caught out. But Yakpung, Ivy, they're calling the shots here. They're calling for a little bit aggressive play when your brig isn't anywhere near you. This puts Yakpung seriously at risk. If New York wanted to, maybe the window of reaction time is a little short. I think they could have abused that a little bit harder. Grav. 4. Bomb in. Push. Kills. 45 seconds. They're looking for the stagger. If they can actually get this DMAC, the map's over. Doesn't get the DMAC. That's fine. We're going to get one last fight. Oh, that's a spoiler. Sneaky. This is a very high risk, low reward-ish play. Again, much in the same way that I explained or broke down last fight. Let's say, for whatever reason, Mono doesn't hit this shatter. I don't actually remember if he does. He might actually get caught out. He doesn't hit this bumper shatter. New York goes back. They coil here. Reinhardt respawns. They can take an overtime fight. And I think they're fine with that. I think they're fine with drawing this map to overtime. But if they do hit this shatter, fight's over. You've won the map. You've held them at this percentage. If you do just hold normally on point, I think it's very, standard, very safe. Again, I think that's very applicable here. This is just showing New York's feeling themselves. They want to be a little bit aggressive. They only hit one. That's pretty not good. What New York then does is they commit to it. They half commit, then they go back. They commit. They block. They block any kind of rotation here. Not really. I guess block is a strong word, but they're posturing to get mono out. He charges out. They have to beat. This is starting to look like New York crumbling a little bit. They get grabbed. They have to answer with trance. Bomb comes in. Nothing. Who? I feel like they get booped there. Just a late bomb from NV being built. That's fine. It happens. Panic situations, obviously you don't want that to happen, but I understand that the players are kind of all over the place. They're a little bit, adrenaline's running. Things aren't always going to be as clean. Who gets this boop onto Yakpung here? Because I want to give them the credit that they deserve. Probably Animo there. Yeah, because Libro's looking this way. He's looking this way. Boops him in. Reinhardt probably changes the trajectory a little bit. Yeah, it's probably Animo. So big plays from Animo. Secures the fight. There you go. Fight over. GG, go next. There you go. A bit aggressive, a bit cocky from New York there. Definitely feeling themselves. I don't think they've necessarily fully given up their season 1 performance. They definitely know that they're at an advantage and are looking to put on a little bit of a show there. But again, I don't hate it, right? It's going to punish teams that, you can see that they have this in their arsenal. New York will pull this out as a weapon. They will hide. I don't think this even... I think this explains a lot more to their strategic depth than what is let on. I think if you're willing to hide a Rhine Shatter, you're probably willing to hide a Brig. You're probably also willing to hide a Zarya to hit a large man Graviton Surge. So this is something for teams to put on note that, we have to check and scout and play with our eyes and say, look, where's the Rhine? Look, where's the Zarya? Start to look. Start to play a little bit slower. And again, I don't know how many times I've said and again. Maybe you can tell me down below. maybe that's a vocal crutch now. But this shatter play does slow them down. When I mentioned, being a little bit more aggressive, playing up, the way you beat this is you say, play slow, play with your eyes. Where's the Rhine? We have, start to look for him, start to think where he could be. You don't really have that luxury when you're at 33 on the clock. You don't have the luxury to say, let's stop and think where the Rhine could be. There's really not too many places he could be. He's probably here. He's probably here. Maybe he's here. I don't know that there's maybe here. There are places he could be, but I don't think you have enough time to be able to sit there and go, okay, let's check every little angle. So again, kudos to New York to be able to be a little bit more proactive. Do they execute properly? Doesn't look like it. Looks like either Mono gets booped or his Earth Shatter gets clipped on a corner or something because he only hits one here. And to be completely honest, maybe it's just kind of lucky. Yakpung catches the turn in time to protect the two teammates, and they work from there. Again, kind of a rushed bomb setup. It happens. Adrenaline setting in. I can't blame them too terribly much. Obviously, you don't want it to happen. I'll reiterate, but yeah, Defiant has to be able to plan their ultimates more effectively, or they're going to continue to dig themselves holes and waste a number of minutes on these points. And if they don't, they're going to have a hard time coming into week 4. If they do, again, my prescription on Defiant are that they have very, very clear plans, and the players know those plans like the back of their hands. Once that plan goes sideways, nobody knows what to do. If Ivy gets picked out of position, if the rotations aren't necessarily as crisp from Roki, if Yakpung isn't calling correctly, if Envy isn't calling, on the day, things go sideways. And those tertiary, it doesn't seem like there are even any tertiary plans. If this happens, then we go here. There doesn't seem to be a flow chart. We're very much one track. This is the plan. If it doesn't work this way, throw more ultimates at the problem. And that drives this hole deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. Defiant has to learn to take the loss and say, fine, we played that fight poorly. Save it all. We'll fight next fight. We'll just reset, go next, right? That's something that I think a lot of teams have to work on. I'm picking on Defiant because I'm, kind of studying them. I don't have a good read on them. Now I think I do. But yeah, if you found that informational, if you found that interesting or entertaining, leave a like and comment below, subscribe and all that jazz. Follow my Twitter. It's in the description. And leave a comment if you want me to look at any other map, and I will take into consideration. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.